You're good to go, Andy.
All right. Live from wherever you're watching this, it's the post team of Saturday Night Live. My name is Andy Young. I'm an Emmy nominated editor in LA, and I literally wouldn't be if I hadn't seen Lazy Sunday all those years ago and realized comedy editor was a job. And now, 20 years later, was that? Oh, SNL now. Okay. This is why it's live. Now, 20 years later, SNL has a full film unit and unionized post team. And today we'll be talking to an editor, assistant editor, and lead VFX artist about how they do this every week. If you're with us live, please ask us questions in the chat, and we'll be getting to them later in the show. Real quick plug, this interview is being hosted by Blue Collar Post Collective. It's a nonprofit grassroots initiative supported by emerging talent in post-production that hosts bi-coastal meetups, workshops, and conversations like this. They're instrumental in my career, and if you work in post, I guarantee they'll benefit yours. Visit bluecollarpostcollective.com to find out how, the group on Facebook to learn more. And now here's your post team done, but I'm going to do the Don Poor voice. It's David Eber, Noel Attar, and Ryan Spears.
Hey, everybody.
How's it going?
Thank you guys so much for coming. I guess we'll go Ryan, then Noel, then David. Just to start, like, tell us how you got to 30 Rock. How did you get the job at SNL?
Yeah, for me, it's been kind of like a long, off and on process. I went to film school in New York at NYU, class of 2011, and I graduated, or my senior year there. I interned at SNL in the post department, essentially, which mostly involved kind of like just helping things move along. We weren't really doing a ton of editing necessarily, but I was with the post department. Then when I graduated, I got a job as an assistant editor at Broadway Video, which used to have a whole post production house here in New York, and was there for about a year. And then Broadway Video started up this new venture company called Above Average, which was kind of doing the same thing that like Funny or Die and College Humor were doing at the time. A lot of web based comedy, both to capture like things that people at SNL wanted to do outside of SNL. It kind of started with Mike O'Brien, the writer, was doing the series 7 Minutes in Heaven. He was kind of just doing it on his own, so like they wanted to like give people on SNL the opportunity to kind of do more stuff, as well as start to develop talent from the comedy theaters and the comedy scenes here in New York and LA. I was there for about 4 years. Kind of as long as like those places were kind of like still functioning at the scale that they were at.
I remember.
Unfortunately, everyone found out there wasn't a ton of money in online web comedy content.
Yep.
So I was freelance after that. So when I went freelance again, I went back to SNL, started as like an assistant editor there. That was like 2017, like February 2017, so 9 years now. And then just worked my way up through that system and eventually got into the editing chair. And around 2020 is kind of when I started consistently starting to work on pieces there.
Nice. And Noel, how about you? How did you get into the door?
Yeah, so I like Ryan, I graduated from OU around 2008, which was when the recession hit, and I could not find any work. So for a long time, I was just freelance editor, where I was working on any shorts, any commercial things, and for a long time. But my dream, my love was always for narrative. And then I want to say I forget how many years ago it was, like 7 years or 8 years ago. I was just at that point where I was either like either have to find something intelligent here or move to LA. And I was reaching out to a bunch of editors I knew who was doing it, and one of them was Joanne Nagel, who edits The Bear.
The one and only,
I
yeah.
Yeah, I worked with her at Cedar Post as a freelancer,
Mhm.
and she had connected me with Ryan, and so Ryan and I met up. And of course, like you, I was raised with Lonely Island, with digital shorts. I used to watch, like, with my parents growing up watching SNL and loving all the pre-tapes. And when I talked to Ryan, I geeked out about it because, love comedy. And, I forget what it was. A couple months later, I get a call from Matt Yonks, the head of SNL, to ask me to come in. And, I came in with Christy, which is another assistant editor at the same time. And it was season 45. And, his whole thing was he wants overqualified, like, assistant editors because of the timeline that we work with SNL.
Mm.
It's not the normal thing where we need to. It's like a sports team where you can't really have holes and gaps. Like, we don't have enough time to fix errors, so you want people who are know what they're doing and can step up at any moment. And so season 45 was my first season, and I think it took me about 4 years to have a normal season since my first season ended with COVID. And then and then I was remote, and then we had the writer's strike, and then I forget what else it was. And it was, I think, until 4 seasons in that I had a normal full SNL season.
Right on,
And,
man. And
yeah, and so I've been there
yeah.
since.
Nice. Well, and David, you were the VFX artist on the panel. How did you get into SNL? What was your path there?
I probably have the most bizarre path of the three of us. I went to school for mechanical engineering.
Wow. Okay.
After I graduated, I took a like unpaid PA thing with the PFR guys shooting the Harchie Holler because I was like, I'm not gonna have another chance to do something like this. I'll just get like a boring engineering job, but like I can take this summer to like mess around for a while. So I did that, and I just kept bugging the director John Lee and Vernon Chapman. I was like, is there anything in post I can do? And one of them asked me like, do you know After Effects? And I was like, yeah. And I didn't know how to use it. So I looked up YouTube videos on how to use it. And that's when I met Edmund Hawkins, who's like definitely one of the best VFX artists, like period. And so it was really cool working under him. And he's the VFX artist that pretty much like built the VFX team for SNL. He was like one of the first people here doing like VFX at SNL, building out like actual stuff on that timeline. And me and him worked together for years and years and years. And then finally COVID happened, and I had just worked with Milton Ladd, who's our most senior VFX artist currently at SNL, and they were in such need of artists who could work remotely, and I had, enough computer hardware and everything that when they reached out, it was like, yeah, I can do this stuff from my house. I don't need to go to 30 Rock. And so my first show was during COVID when like we were just getting sent footage and doing VFX like in these little siloed apartments and then sending I don't know how you guys
Wow.
edited during COVID because like it was one thing getting like exports sent over and it's like, okay, I'll work on this shot and I'll take care of this thing. And I guess I was proactive enough with Matt during like COVID where it's like um I would like kind of take the charge on like taking responsibility for what gets delivered to the edit. And then once COVID was coming enough to a close where we were moving back into the office, like I slowly just started getting more and more responsibility of like, okay, you're the person that will like when we get a piece, you'll get the script first, you'll look through everything, you'll like keep stock of all the stuff that needs to get done and
Mhm.
make sure that it gets delivered. I will say on SNL compared to like any other type of supervision, you're basically like VFX editor, producer, supervisor, and
Yeah.
artist. And for the film unit pieces, like I've effectively had to stop doing shots altogether because there's just like too much to keep track of constantly. That if I'm like doing a shot, it'll never get done, and I won't be able to answer stuff on time, and like there's just too much like fallout from the time loss. So it's a very different position entirely. And I'm sure that the same goes for editing and assistant editing, where it's like it's very specialized, it's very um different than like any other type of post-production job.
Oh, sure. Well, I will say
Yeah.
it's like what's fascinating to me about your story is like I can't tell you how many editors and post-production people I've met who like started as engineers, which I'm really fascinated by. And again, I think from all three of these stories, it's like really cool to see. It's just like there's so many different avenues to get into the building. And I think that's a good segue to get to talk about like we're gonna for those watching, we're gonna use we're taping this 2 days after the Jack Black White show, so we're gonna use Words to Live By as kind of a case study, and we've got a lot of cool stuff to look at. But first, again, reminding people like there's a chat. Feel free to ask us questions. To ask you guys, what are some of your favorite sketches, pre-tapes that you guys have worked on in your tenure at SNL so far, so that we can kind of give people if they have kind of nitty-gritty specifics. What are some of the favorite greatest hit sketches y'all have done?
Yeah, well, and I just wanted to add, I almost went to engineering school
Did
instead of
you
film
really?
school. So
It's
yeah,
either
yeah,
musician or engineer, and that's like you need both for like editor.
yeah,
But it's like my dad was an engineer, my mom is like an artist, so it's just like it's so funny how yeah you use both sides of your brain.
yeah.
But yeah, like so
Uh,
what are some? I was saying earlier, my one of my favorites in the last couple of years is Mario Kart. I think is like
mhm.
an insane sketch. But yeah, what about y'all? What are some that you're really proud of in the last couple of
Yeah,
years?
Mario Kart for sure. That's definitely, I think, our biggest technical achievement like of all time, and we have come close to upping that bar a few times, but I still think it stands at the top of the mountain in that regard. We did one a couple of years ago called Beppo that I really liked. That's almost like a short film, essentially. Um, I really liked I'm Just Pete from a few years ago too. Um, and then, the meatball sketch as well is probably one of my favorites of all time with
Oh, that's a
Sarah.
good one. Shoot, I didn't know you
Yeah,
were on
yeah,
Meatball. That's awesome.
yep.
David, what about you? Any favorites that you've gotten to work on in the last couple of years?
Definitely partial to, well, like Mario Kart and like the big hits like the Tiny Horse almost trilogy. Um,
Ooh,
Tiny
interesting.
Horse
Okay.
was very fun. Giant Horse was every bit as difficult as Mario Kart in a different way and a sh slightly shorter timeline. Um, I wasn't on Meatballs, but Meatballs is a great one, and we had three pieces that week, and I had to do the other two by myself because everybody was doing everything for Meatballs. I really liked the Chucky piece, though I again was not super involved with that one, but just
Mhm.
like the practical puppet stuff mixed with Sarah's head was just like such a
Seems like
funny.
any of the Cher Sherman's. I've been a fan of her since
Hmm.
before she
I
got
love
SNL, and it's
Sarah.
like
Yeah.
any of that stuff seems like it's just that's going to be like the best to get to work on. Noel, what about you? Any favorites that you've worked on
Yeah,
recently?
yeah. So my top, Giant Horse and Mario Kart are top two. I also less from a technical standpoint, but Shrimp Tower just really tickles me
Yeah.
because Josh Brolin committed so hard to that one. It just is great. And then I really like for me, it's also special because talking about my background is working on like anxiety during the 50th.
Hmm.
Both from because the topic is so personal and such a love letter to the crew of SNL, but also working with Andy, who, as you said, was such an inspiration for so many of us to
Oh
actually be able
yeah.
to be
Yeah.
see him work and seeing it like you clearly see where like so much of the creativity like the three of them you're just like, oh yeah, you guys are truly comedic geniuses. So
Absolutely.
that was like for me was made like that was like okay, SNL working with Andy, there we go.
Oh, I'm jealous. That's amazing. Well, let's rewind a week and talk about again. We're
Hmm.
talking about the Jack Black and White episode that just happened. So, what does y'all's week look like? Let's just start there. Like, when do you
Yeah.
guys like first start getting involved, scripts, what have you?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people kind of know from documentaries and stuff like that what a SNL week typically looks like. Monday, the host meets with the writers and the cast and Lauren, and they start kind of like spitballing ideas. Tuesday, all Tuesday night into Wednesday, they write those ideas, and then Wednesday later in the afternoon, they do a table read of all the scripts that have been written. And by that point, I typically don't get the scripts early just because my input doesn't really matter as much. I know, Dave, you kind of get to see some of the scripts a little earlier because some of them involve like feasibility for VFX and things like that. And then on Wednesday night, usually around like 10 or 11, they have picked the scripts that are going to be produced for that week, and we hop on a Zoom and basically have a Zoom production meeting about the piece. A lot of it's kind of centered around production design, hair, makeup, costumes, and all that stuff. But there are times where we're already starting to talk about VFX things that if they're a little bit bigger, and Dave can probably speak a little more to like that part of it.
Yeah, I get all the scripts that are going to table read that are pre-tapes. Like there are between like three and like up to maybe 10 scripts that are going to be potentially pre-tapes, and then obviously they only have the 2 units to film them. Um, but like for something like Mario Kart, which we actually had the extra day for, like I was told on like Tuesday which is still, you know, not much more time, but like because this was such an extenuating circumstance, there was really a conversation of like, we're going to have to build stuff like as soon as possible, and how can we work that all out together? So there's me and Hannah and Milton who are the other leads for the team, and like on Wednesday, if something's really complicated, the three of us will talk and be like, well, what's a good idea to do this? What should we be prepared for? Like, how many people do we need for each thing? Like stuff like that. That's just like, if you're always kind of planning like what's the worst case scenario.
Mm.
So, and you have to be prepared for the worst case scenario, even if you get the best case scenario, because like things can go south so fast. So the job is a mix between like actuary and VFX. So the meeting for me, if it's like, I know they don't end up talking too much edit narrative stuff, but like I'll unfortunately wait till the very end of the meeting to talk about VFX, because like the costume people need to get on building, and the set needs to start getting built, and all the stuff that like won't, like our stuff doesn't really matter as much until we actually have footage or something like that. So, you know, our meetings can end like 1 o'clock in the morning. So sometimes even after that, I'll just call the director directly, so that way I'm not holding everybody else up, and we'll just talk like, what reference do you have for this thing? Like, what are we looking at? Like, what, like for the Jack White, Jack Black thing, like me and Mike kind of talked very briefly, like, what is the third eye shot looking like to you? Like this mountain, like where are we building the mountain practically, or do you need us to extend it? And like, for example, that one, they were completely under the impression they were going to do the whole mountain practically, and then Friday mid shoot, maybe 3, 4 o'clock, they were like, we need to build the mountain in CG. So it was like, cool, okay.
The whole thing that he's standing on. And I'll share some screen grabs in a bit, but it's like, that's actually really interesting. I kind of want to like tie Noel into this as well. When you guys are getting scripts and like David, you're talking about having this conversation, is there anything you can do to start prepping, or is it a bit of a moot point to be like building assets this early on? Like again, I think Mario Kart is a good example of like, you know, you're gonna have like certain things, but obviously you don't have footage to play with them. For both of you guys, like before cameras roll, is there anything you can be doing to prep, or is it just kind of you just got to wait till the first dailies start coming in?
It depends. I mean, like these days, for me, I kind of tend to do a lot more of it on Friday. But you know, we get the script, so like we get a sense of like what's the music pull ask need to be, like what kind of stock music do we need to pull for this piece? If it's a piece that's going to need stock music, what kind of sound design is going to be needed. And Noel's really great at helping me with that. I'll go through the script. Usually they do rewrites on the scripts on Thursday, so we get the final script on Monday. It's usually not like too significantly different. I mean, in some cases, there are like bigger set PC things that are in the script that are just like not achievable. So they have to pivot and kind of come up with something that's a little more practical. And things like that can change. And then they obviously do a lot of punch ups as late as they can on the script, and do a little bit on set as well. And so like Friday morning, I'll go through the script after we have the final version, and I'll highlight sound design, I'll highlight music and stuff like that, and I'll pass it on to Noel and our other like junior assistant editors, and they can kind of get a start on pulling music and sound design.
Y'all, this is very and again, if there's stuff you can't answer, I totally get it. Does SNL have like a library that you guys just pull everything from, or is it a little bit of like just whatever
Yeah,
libraries
like
are available?
yeah, I mean, like most major like media companies, there is a we have an umbrella like portal that's NBC's portal for sound, and they've tied in a bunch of libraries that they have existing licenses to. A lot of the stuff that you kind of like find in a lot of places, like Extreme Music, APM, stuff like that. We've got the
Sure.
whole Hanna-Barbera sound effects
Same.
library,
Yeah.
things like that. So we're tapping into that, and it's tapped into all of the sources that we're allowed to use. That like licensing is either already taken care of, or they have a process where you just don't have to worry about like, you know, what the what the costs are going to be necessarily. That stuff is all covered, you know.
Well, and Ryan, I guess this is mostly for you, but David, you might be able to chime in on this as well. When it's so many of the pieces that have come out of the film unit are generally they're homages or parodies of a very specific thing. Are you guys doing research in terms of like going back and watching like said show? Like, for example, like I know y'all did that the Heated Rivalry parody recently, or it's like a commercial that you do. Are you guys like going back, watching, taking notes, or is it generally like I'm familiar with the thing, I don't need to go look at it again?
Yeah, I mean, from the editing side, I'll definitely go and look at the specific references, especially if it's something that I haven't seen at all or haven't seen in a while, so I can kind of get a sense of what the cutting style is, what kind of music they're using, what what they're do like for the Heated Rivalry thing, what they do in their trailer, which wound up being very different than what we did in our trailer because stylistically we were just kind of going for something a little different than what they had done with their trailer, but at least like we kind of got a sense of like it's the kind of just like very sensual shots and stuff like that, and the kind of music that they're using. So we did kind of like find stock music that sounded like what was in the trailer. And I mean, I would say like I think we were going to talk a little bit about genre things at some point.
Sure.
I do think too that helps a lot with with pieces that we're going after something that already exists. It kind of creates a template to work off of in some ways, which helps us a lot when we're down, to the wire. Like we have a starting point, we know what we're aiming for. It makes things a lot more clear. And I mean, I think for Dave and the VFX team, it's always helpful when we're working towards a parody of something that exists rather than something that we're kind of creating whole cloth and we're trying to figure out what is the look and everything throughout the whole process.
Well, and actually, that's a good question I have for you, Dave, because I believe you mentioned Mike as in Mike Diva, who I'm a huge fan of. I've seen on his socials, he'll oftentimes kind of do almost like a previs or like a walkthrough of a lot of like camera moves and stuff like that. Is that a process that you're involved with him on, or are you guys doing like previs or animatics for some of these bigger ones, or what's your
I'll
side
do
of that?
I'll do like little testy things and show him occasionally, but like his crapomatics, as he calls them, are amazing. And if they have time to do them, it's like Mario Kart would be basically have been undoable in its like 3D elements, if not
Mhm.
for him doing that and sticking to it as well as he did.
And kind of
Him,
describe for these people who haven't, because I know what you're talking about, but, like the
yeah.
crapomatics, like describe like what he's like doing and making.
So that's actually with him and the DP. So they're
Mhm.
they're very intentionally doing it how they will on set, but they'll for Mario Kart, him and Mike Diva and Lance Coons, the DP, took like little toy cars and they recorded like with iPhones and things like the timing, the placement of where they wanted stuff, like how big in frame, um, like there'll be cuts of Mike saying a line. Like they basically cut the very end racing portion with toys and things like that. Um, I don't know to what frame how close he was, Ryan, but like they stayed very consistent with like this shot followed by this shot followed by this shot. So there was no question of like how many shots do we need to do, what framing, what needs to hold up close to camera, what can we get away with far away with from camera, like what do we need to build? And that was like huge. He's done it a handful. It's only for like the really big guns moments. Like he did it for Giant Horse. He did it
Mhm.
for Mario Kart and a few, like maybe one or two others. But like it's rare because like he basically has to stay up all night with the DP to do that. Like I don't think me, Mike, Lance, any of like those crew people slept for like 5 days for Mario Kart.
Oh my gosh, I imagine so. Like, and I do want to talk about Mario more at some point, but I think this is a good break way to get into like some of the stuff with Words to Live By, since that was the one
Mhm.
y'all just shot. So I just shared, I don't know if you guys can see, I just shared my
Yep.
screen. So I have like both this and then I have like a lot of the stuff. So I'll kind of let Noah, maybe I'll let you kind of take it off because I imagine you're probably the first person that sees the footage. So what is
Yeah.
the shoot day like? I don't know if you're on set or how it's. I don't even know how you get footage. So just to walk us
Yeah.
a little bit through, and use Words to Live By. I think is a good example as like what that day looked like for you on Thursday or Friday, whenever they shot.
Friday.
Okay, on
So
Friday.
yeah, Yeah, so Friday, normally my day is I get in around noon. And that usually because they start shooting around 9, so we get the first drop. So we're working off the sand and they have a connection to the sand at the studio. Um, our workflow has drastically changed since COVID because before COVID, they were shooting a lot more on location. And so they used to deliver cards and such. Now, because they're shooting a lot on sets because of COVID, it allows, easy, there's a place where they're connected to Santa and they drop it, we get it pretty quickly. Um, and so normally I get there around 12, and my day goes until like 2 a.m. So it's, a 14-hour day. And we get
tell
to
us
first,
what goes into that day. Like as footage is
yeah.
dropping in, what's your responsibility as assistant editor?
So yeah, so it's me and usually 2 other people, usually Ethan Beach and someone varies. Ian was the other one who worked with us last week. And we get the footage. My first job is to sync everything. This one was a little tricky because they shot everything at 48 frames per second. And so
Interesting. Okay.
normally they're very good about being able to, I can sync everything by time code, but because it's 48, time code syncing doesn't work.
Interesting.
So I had to mainly go by eye. What we do is we actually utilize the multicam system, whether it's with 2 cameras or 1. So what you'll see here is at the top of the screen, you'll see it's like green, which usually implies that it's below that. Yeah, the clip.
Yeah.
That,
The top video for track. Yeah.
yeah, that means it's a multicam with 2 cameras. At the end of the sequence, you'll see it's blue, which lets Ryan know that is only one angle on the camera,
Gotcha.
on the multicam.
And I see some different like audio. Can you tell us like what the audio tracks here are?
Yes. So what this sequence you're looking at here is specifically, this is a sequence that we created, which is all of the musical beats put together chronologically. So that Ryan, he'll probably explain this later, utilizes a lot of match frame when he edits, can go into a sequence and jump between every time a certain line is happening. So you can see how many options that exist in all the footage. And so what you'll see here at the top is we disabled the reference audio.
And that's just what was playing on set.
Exactly, the playback. And then what you'll see here near the middle, where there's some parts up, that's where diegetic audio occurred. So we made it clear where it's like, okay, we're cutting it here, there's music, and then here there's audio. So that Ryan is very clear because our whole process is he doesn't have the luxury of going through all the footage like as you normally would and be able to be very familiar with everything. So it's very much about trust. And that's why it's so important for us to not make any errors, because sometimes when you discover an error, it's too late and it can really throw a wrench in. So we have to be very meticulous about everything. So we make it as clear as possible. We change the markers. Usually we alternate all the colors so it stands out.
I was going to ask if the color had any meaning or if it was just to distinguish it with whatever's next to it.
In this one, it doesn't, but we also utilize something called a line by line, which is when this one's a music video, but when it's dialogue heavy, we actually organize every instance of a certain line in the script, similar to this, so that you have all of the coverage of each line put in order. And what we'll do there is have the markers by page of script. So all of page 1 will, let's say, be green. All of page 2 will be like blue. And all of 3 will be pink. So it's very clear.
Will you organize it like a line-orama where it's just like every line kind of repeat, or is it like it's just like this coverage of this scene, kind of all those takes, and then there's a gap?
It's each line specifically.
Wow,
and then also we'll sometimes also keep in like coverage in case someone is not saying the line, but they're reacting in case that is helpful.
Gotcha.
But that is specifically useful for dialogue heavy scenes like Shrimp Tower.
Okay.
And certain writers who very much want to, can I see another take of this? And that's just in a simple way. Normally that's done though at end of day. So that's not necessarily something Ryan uses to edit, but it is something that we have available in case, because on Saturday, the writers are usually in the room with us all day. And so you want to be able to quickly find what you're looking for in a way that is as minimal like friction as possible.
Well, going off of that, like we'll get into editing next, but I see it looks like, are these like select string outs that you have here from different moments? So it's like, I guess music string out, I imagine, is everything. Are these like each individual like character, or
Yes.
what all is going on in these timelines?
Yeah. So as you see here, it's like the problem with our workflow is that sometimes we'll get different drops. So they'll shoot part of a scene at one part of the day, then a different part later. So it's harder for us to combine them like you normally would. So you happen to have a little bit more sequences here. Here at the top, you see the setup with what's on the slate. Next to it is what cast members are in this scene. Then usually it's a bit of detail, whether it's like B-roll, whether it's the location, and then afterwards is what page number on the script it is.
I see.
And so you can see like sometimes it's like, okay, like at the bottom it's 4 to 7.
Mhm.
So you can see it's a few of them that are there of Jack on the mountain. And if you go into those, usually you'll see like a mixture of dialogue, music, it's whatever they shot in that time. And we have labels for those sections. So right, clearly tell. And what we normally do is in that sequence, we have camera A, and then I duplicate it, put camera B, so he can see what both are just by scrubbing through, make selects of both. And then if it's slow motion, which most of this was, we'll break it out and then show, like strip the audio and have it just in real time so that he can see the slow motion of it. Again, the idea is we want to make it as clear as possible so that for him, he can just focus on the creativity and not focus on trying to understand or look or any of that stuff.
And so going off of that, so if Ryan, if Noel's day starts, and I believe you said noon on Friday, when do you jump in? When do you start messing with footage?
Yeah, usually I'll come in around like 2 or 3 because by that point Noel will have gotten a first batch of footage from the set and started to break it down. So I'll have at least like 1 or 2 of those setup sequences to start looking at and start pulling my selects. And I think I sent you like a screen grab of like one of those like setup sequences post like selection.
I believe you did. This might have been the one that I accidentally moved.
Oh yeah.
No, it's somewhere.
Maybe I forgot to.
I'll find it. Oh wait,
Oh
I
yeah,
think
there
it
it
was
is.
that
Yeah.
one. I just didn't
Yep.
click it. My mistake. Let's check it out. Yeah, so this timeline here.
Yeah, so you can kind of see what Noel was talking about. Like, so that cluster right there that you were just on, that has like all the A cam stuff, and then the back half of it is all the B cam. So, I mean, it's multicam, but I like to be able to have, when I'm making my selects, one group of it that's all A cam, one group of it that's all B cam, because like sometimes they'll do cross coverage, right? So it's like a take might be good on an A cam, but it's not good on a B cam, and it's kind of a pain in the butt to try to mark that stuff on just a multicam. So those are the same takes twice basically, and then we have the if there is slow mo, like if they shot at a higher frame rate, that stuff is right behind it.
The
So that
purple
way,
stuff,
like
yeah.
if I want to quickly look at how it looks in slow mo, I can just go to that.
Interesting. So a lot of this is the same footage kind of duplicated,
Yes.
is what you're saying.
Mhm.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, just so I can kind of quickly get to what those options are there. This portion in particular, I think, was really just dialogue.
Mhm.
So I don't. Actually, this is dialogue from the scene where Mikey and James are in the hospital. So I was initially marking based on their performance there, but then I ultimately slowed a lot of it down. But like if I were like looking at stuff that I know is like I'm just going to use the slow mo of it, I would maybe be looking at the slow mo takes and marking those instead. And then I do, as you can see there, like I kind of do what a lot of editors will do. I'll just bump things up to like V2, V3 based on how good I feel about the take. Like V2 is like, oh, that's good, that's usable. V3 is like, oh, I think that's the best option I have so far.
Mhm.
You know,
And are you
V4
guys getting
is like I really got to use it, something like
Yeah.
that. So yeah.
Well, something I've always been curious. Do you guys have a script supervisor at SNL, or because we don't always use the director circles, but it's
Yeah.
like I don't know if you guys are getting that information.
We
Only
do
the
have a
film
script
unit.
supervisor.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only film unit has a script supervisor, and we do get that information, but we don't get it until the end of the shoot. So by that point, I've already seen a lot of the footage,
Sure.
and they are running and gunning so fast that they don't really even have a lot of time to like call out selects. I mean, they try to sometimes, but
Mhm.
it's not super consistent. So the script soup is really just usually on they're most useful for like making sure their people are in the right place, doing all the other stuff that the script supervisor does,
Continuity, of course, yeah.
things like that. Yeah. And so we don't get a ton of like selects based off of that stuff. So we're kind of coming into it fresh and are not super tied to it. I mean, sometimes we'll get things for like VFX heavy shots either like Michael shout it out to them, or when we talk after the shoot, he'll be like, the last take of this shot was the
Mm-hmm.
best one, or something like that.
And
So yeah.
oh, sorry, I was just gonna like so David, for you, so Ryan comes in at 3. When do you start seeing this footage? It sounds like they're getting stuff on a sand drive. Is your team also, I imagine, within that thing, or is there much you can do until you get like a cut to be able to look at?
So I'm either on the set
Oh, okay.
or much easier. We have a live feed to the set, so more often than not for the past few years, either Hannah or Milton will be on the set physically. I'm a bit farther away,
Mm,
and I watch it on the feed while I'm also building stuff on my computer here or with one of the artists. On like a lot of the larger pieces, I'm on like a Zoom call with especially 3D prep. I'll be on the Zoom with like Danny Behar or Cody Fan or Jason Doris. We don't have that many 3D artists for how much 3D we produce.
interesting.
Um, and so basically our biggest pre-build stuff is 3D assets.
Hmm.
We don't do anything that requires footage. Obviously, we can't do Friday. Um, I can do tests because Noel's got incredible organization. Like his kicking out of like the sequences of, oh, here's all these green screen moments, here's all this for this VFX beat. I can very quickly go through those and look and see what the options are, what we're gonna have to work with.
Okay.
I
So
mean,
is he kicking out like a selects like quick time to you, or like what are you getting from Noel?
we'll
String
we'll
out.
yeah, string outs of
Gotcha.
tape and everything. Like me and Noel link up like on a super complicated piece like Thursday night of like, can you please, if when you have time, get me X, Y, and Z so I can take a look at them. Because I'm watching the feed, but like there's a lot of things to do at the same time. So I may miss takes, I may miss there's not a whole lot audio coming through on it
Sure.
unless they're rolling, so I can't hear like a lot of conversations necessarily. And they may shoot something MOS and I miss it, so I just want to see the footage as it's like coming back through the sand.
Okay. And for something
Um,
like Words to Live By, like, are you, as the feed's coming in, are you working on stuff, or are you like once you get selects in, starting to build stuff, or when did you get involved like on this one?
Oh, well, I'm like Ryan, I'm still involved on Wednesday. Like I'm part of the production meeting Wednesday, then Thursday is all keeping track of stuff, scripts, building out. For that one, there weren't any elements to build out on Thursday because they had said we didn't need to worry about that stuff. So it was kind of just breaking down the scripts, getting prepared for knowing that like some things would need to be extended because they were a bit larger than you'd be able to capture on a set. The cave, some like after working with Andrea and Danielle, our production designer and set decorator, like I know kind of the limitations of what's going to happen on set, what expectation to have of what um like interstitial things will need to be done. Like there's
Mm,
always like cleanup. There's because like they're the best production company like in the world, like the set decks and the fabricators and the carpenters and everything. But like when you have to do everything in such a crazy amount of time, there's always like stuff to clean up. There's
of
always like
course.
little
Yeah.
things here and there where the set's not big enough, where the camera they shot all that anamorphic, so the camera's picking up like way more than like you could possibly fit on a sound stage. And like so
Yeah,
I'm
we're
finding all
working
that
on a
stuff.
Yeah, we're working on like a decently sized soundstage, but we're still working on a soundstage in New York. So like it's not as enormous as sound stages in LA or in the outer boroughs can be.
Sure.
So, there's definitely a limitation as to how big some of our sets can get. So, especially when we do things like this that are this epic, there's usually to some degree going to be a little bit at the edges where we're going to have to get rid of like C stands, or you can see the end of a drop or something like that. So,
Okay, that's something I was going to ask about. Yeah, David, is just like, is it? Well, I guess I'll save that until we get closer into post. Ryan, so you get in at 3. When do you like, for example, for Words to Live By? When did you have like a cut, or did you have a cut like to show writers, or is it like you're kind of work in progress on one section and they're coming in and you're doing it piecemeal? Like for this one, like how did the process work?
yeah, so typically, I have Friday, all of, the rest of the day, Friday and like overnight and stuff like that to work on a cut before anyone needs to see it. So like, the writers, And Mike and I's process is like to just kind of let me do my thing all day, all on Friday. And so this one actually came together pretty quickly. I think I had a full first cut of this by around like 11 or 12 on Friday.
Wow. Okay.
Just all laid out. The music videos do tend to kind of come together a little bit quicker because like part of like the pacing is already built into the track, like I
The
can't.
storytelling of like and that's a big Lonely Island thing. Like this shot was specifically for this moment, like that kind of
Yes.
stuff. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So a lot of that's already kind of like a lot of those decisions are already kind of like made for me. So I'm just kind of like trying to figure out what's the best take, what's the funniest moment, like maybe, like especially in the cave, they got a lot of really great stuff. So I'm trying to like figure out the puzzle of like how do we get as much of this good stuff into the like 20 seconds of lyrics that we have that cover the cave portion essentially. And so like squeezing all that in usually is less like time intensive than if you're cutting a dialogue scene for the first time that has a lot of B-roll and you're trying to figure out like, oh, maybe I need to jump here or there, and there's not necessarily a predetermined like pacing for this moment and things. So like the music videos do kind of come together pretty quickly, and Mike Diva also like really plans them out very well, like like he does it, again. I mean, he came through like the Lonely Island guys and has worked with them, so like that's very much his style where it's like I'm gonna shoot this chunk of the music video for this portion and this chunk for this portion. He doesn't like shotgun it and like shoot a bunch of just like performance stuff that could kind of go anywhere.
Right.
And when he does do like, this one didn't have any kind of like real like performance spacey kind of stuff. Sometimes you do things that like have like the whole song in one performance space. That for me is usually the last to go in because I'm focused on the visual story and the jokes first. And then where there are those gaps, that's where I start bringing in like just people singing and dancing on a fun set kind of stuff.
Right. The intention of like bringing stuff in. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So like I had a first cut of this probably around like 11 o'clock. And then I spent another couple of hours just kind of like refining it, trying some things out, looking at other takes.
Do you get to sleep, or are you like what's the track between
Yes.
for all of you guys, like from Friday to Saturday, are you getting like any sleep, or is it like really pretty crunched?
Yeah, I mean,
Crunched.
it's very crunched, but I mean, for me, like usually, I'll work until like 3 or 4 in the morning, depending on how intense the piece is, and like the show will put me up at a hotel like right across the street from 30 Rock. I live in Brooklyn.
Amazing.
I don't live too far from. I mean, it's about like I don't know 20-30 minute like Uber ride at that time of night, but that's time I could be spending working or sleeping or something. So they put myself and the other film editors,
Amazing.
Chris and Paul. When we have pieces, they'll put us up at a hotel right across the street. So I'll just go across the street, crash for as many hours as I can, and then like usually again kind of depending on the intensity of the piece come back in at around like 10 or 11 in the morning on Saturday, and then we just go we go
Well, yeah, let's jump into
delivery.
the big day. What does Saturday look like for all of you guys? Because I'm especially curious, like how all of you are. Again, we kind of alluded to, but how you're all able to work in tandem with each other. Like it doesn't seem like while Ryan's working with Mike that it's like everything else stops. Like obviously there's so many other moving parts. So like take us through what Saturday looks like for you guys, like and how you're able to kind of keep each other in check and working together. What does that look like?
I mean, Noel's really the glue that holds a lot of that together. I mean,
100%.
he can get into the detail, but I mean, just for example, like with this, like Dave has let us know what are the priority VFX shots, the ones that are going to take the longest throughout the day, and so the third eye shot with Jack in this, like that, we tried to lock as early as possible. So like I try to lock that with Mike, and then we move on to other stuff, and then I mean Noel can talk about like how once we've decided, he kind of starts getting that process going with Dave.
Yeah, so I think that like in normal circumstances, like you have time for a lot of things. Basically what happened, like the standard workflow is completely thrown out the window when it comes to our timeline. Because we are simultaneously finishing as we're cutting. And so basically my job is to basically allow Ryan to focus entirely on the creative and, let's say, client-facing aspects of editing. Like, he is in the chair working on the piece the whole day with the directors, writers, producers, whoever's coming in the room. What I'm doing is I'm frequently taking his project, bringing it to my project, seeing what's changing. I am coordinating with the graphics department, with VFX, and then later in the day, I am prepping everything for color and updating it in real time when shots change, so that by the time we go to dress, we have a complete finished piece.
Yeah, and you're not in productions, right? Like it's just you each have your own like project file
No,
that you've duplicated, and you're just like taking in and then just giving him like a track of whatever, basically. Is
yeah, and so
that kind
that's
of the idea?
why,
Wow, okay.
yeah, and so it's all like also my thing. Like for music video specific, that was something we had worked on this week, is to make sure that when we're doing this, especially with other AEs on Friday, that we aren't having duplicate media, because since he's using match frame, if there's two versions of the same music track, that can throw everything for a loop.
Yeah.
So it's very also making sure that things are repeating. We use a lot of labeling system, like different colors in the Finder to know, like, okay, I imported this color VFX file. Ryan imported this. But yeah, as Ryan said, beginning of the day, what I tend to do is take Ryan's cut from Friday night, and I will make a sequence with only the VFX shots and kick it out to VFX, so that Dave can go through Notion and make a master list of all the VFX shots. And I'll talk to Dave and ask him, okay, which are the shots that are we'll take the most amount of time? Which are the ones that we need to have locked by XYZ? What time do we have to have it locked by? Like this piece was as bad, but then like was it with the Willy Wonka piece? The we had to with the was it Ryan Gosling? We had to certain shots that had a lot of CGI. It's like, okay, we have to have this shot locked by 4. And that one's tricky when it's a dialogue scene, because there's a lot of writers having decisions in terms of like performances of that versus like Mario Kart, as we said. We had a lot of shots that were very easy to lock off because they're action shots, so it's just like picking the best version. I believe with this third eye shot, there were only 3 takes that we could use. And really, what it was really ended up being like one of them, because I think the other 2, his hat flew off, and they didn't like that as much. So those are easier because we can lock them in. But we also make sure that VFX always gives us handles about like 12 frames in case there is some change throughout the day, so that we minimize the amount of being like, can you re-render this? It's too short. Or
that's what I was going to ask. If you extend the shot and then send that to them, and it's like if anything like slips one way or another, that makes sense.
Yeah, and throughout the day, I try to kick out like every hour or two an updated sequence of Ryan's cut, so that people can check to see if things changed. Obviously, it's a little tricky. Not every VFX person's as comfortable with Premiere, or they're just very confident things. But I also
curious if you guys are using like dynamic linking, or if like VFX is outputting to you, or if you're doing the outputs for VFX. Like, what does that look like?
We are generally kicking output. Yeah. We usually kick out, like I kick out a handoff sequence, and they generally kick out an export. Dynamic link, while there are too many people working at the same time, that's too easy for error to happen where someone made a change to a project that Ryan is currently working with, and that would just add extra stress if all of a sudden something went offline when, let's say, like a head writer is in the room and they like explain that workflow or whatever the case. It's like, what, all of a sudden I lost the shot. That's not us. We don't have doing real time stuff. I think dynamically wouldn't work as well for us.
Fair enough. Well, Ryan, like, tell us about like, so what is the cut process like for, as like who, like what order are you? I imagine you sit with Mike first to get like kind of his director cut. Like, take us again through like this one. Like, who were you sitting with who and at what time?
Yeah, I mean, so the process is like for me currently, and it's evolved a little bit over time, but currently with Mike, since we've been working together so long and kind of like have a second hand and stuff, a lot of the cuts when I'm done with them on Friday night, unless we've discussed previously, I'll actually send it out in an email to him and the writers on the piece so they can get a look at the cut before they even come in, which I think is great because like it gives them a little more time to absorb it and to like get it, and like, you know, because these writers, like, they're so used to having to work so fast that sometimes like we have some writers that like we can't even get through seeing the whole cut before they start spitting notes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like I think being able to send out the cut earlier on actually gives them a little breathing room to kind of look at it as a whole. And then but I mean now there are sometimes that there are pieces that Mike and I know like we need to maybe spend a little bit more time kind of figuring out amongst ourselves, and making sure that like he's getting it where it needs to go before it goes to the writers, so we won't email those out. And then he'll come in and then he kind of like we work together on it for about an hour or two together.
Yeah, like what, like 11 noon, something like that?
Yeah, like usually around like 11 or noon, he'll come in or he'll like send me some notes while he's on the way in, so I can get started. So we'll work together for a little bit on it, and then the writers start trickling in around like 2 or 3, and the it's still a very writer driven show, so like at the end of the day it's very much their piece, so they have a lot of say in like the final version of things, and are very hands on, but that can vary a lot too depending on the number of writers, who the writers are. We get pieces where we have maybe like 4 or 5 writers, so like we have a lot of writers kind of coming through. Sometimes they can't all come at the same time and they have like different notes and things like that, so we're trying to like juggle that communication a little bit. And then other times we have pieces that are very kind of like singular, like there's Dan Bolo wrote this with I think it was mostly James and Andrew's idea, and Dan worked on it with them. Dan Bola, who
he's
did
a writer
all
and
the,
he
like,
was also a
Midnight.
musician,
Yeah,
and did the song primarily. Yeah.
yeah, and he's like when it's just him, like or mainly him, it's like those have been branded like midnight matinee pieces and stuff. But he's a really great writer to work with because like he's very like he kind of really knows what he wants. He's very like on track, and like usually, not always, but usually when he has a pre-tape piece, like it's his main thing in the show, so he's kind of like can sit in the room and focus with us all day. Sometimes writers have a bunch of other pieces, so you have to kind of come in and out, so it's always a little bit different. But so yeah, then we work with the writers on it, and then there are higher like executive producers on the show, who are basically just below Lorne, who come in, pop in and out throughout the day as well, and then kind of come in for one last look at it, kind of around like 6 o'clock ish, 5 o'clock ish,
Okay.
depending on things. Because that's the other thing is like the show goes live at 11, but the show does a dress rehearsal at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we have to have a very good version of the piece. We basically have to be done by like 8 o'clock with the edit. I mean, like, it might not be fully conformed, but like, it has to be as good as we can get it for 8, and that means like VFX that are supposed to like carry jokes, graphics that are supposed to carry jokes, like making sure the pacing is what we want it to be, the timing is generally what we want it to be. If we can get color in, great, but that's always like a second priority if we're crunched for time.
And that's for color crunch. That's mainly for like the dress rehearsal one.
Yeah,
It's like it's okay if it's not totally colored, but okay. So that makes sense that I imagine you're getting stuff not just from David and VFX, but also because again Dan is a musician. You're getting like potentially other versions of the song as well, or if they're like tweaking things like that.
Oh, definitely, yeah. When we do music videos, we're getting updates throughout the day as well. Either like there are elements of it that they are still developing and putting together, or like sometimes like we're kind of changing the music a little bit in the cut. Like we might be taking out a verse, or like we might like oftentimes these videos have points where music drops out and then comes back in. That might need a little bit of massaging or expanding or whatever. So like, yeah, there's always a lot of back and forth on the music as well. We have a great in-house composer, Eli Bergerman, who's like been with the show forever, and he does a lot of the stuff for the live show. He'll do stuff for us. We also have a composer. His name is JP, who worked on this. Like he works on things remote and like sends us updated tracks and stuff like that. So
okay. And so, yeah, what does it look like? Like, for example, again, for this one, so it plays at dress rehearsal, and then what were were there big changes that had to happen for this one specifically between dress and air?
This, as a case study, had no changes.
Oh, really? Oh, shoot!
This
I
is
was
the
expecting
exact-
like a
Which
big,
is
crazy
very-
story.
Yeah, which is very rare. It did great during dress, and it was one of those things where like there also just isn't. This wasn't one where it's like, oh, there are pieces sometimes where it's like, this is a joke that like we don't know if it's going to work or not. Let's just see how it does for dress. Like if it doesn't get a hit, we'll just take it out. But this one is like very structured and everything, so like there wasn't a lot that we were like, well, let's just see how it does, and we'll take it out after. So like, yeah, nothing. I mean, except for improving on VFX and like making improvements on the music. I think, yeah, we didn't make any cut changes. I think
Well,
there were
actually,
maybe
let's
one
look
or
at
two
because. Oh yeah,
shots.
sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I realize for maybe people who are maybe more beginner that I didn't like, we didn't say like what all is it. So this is your like working timeline. I think I have like a full version of it as well.
Yeah.
So it's like walk us a little through like, we were talking about like the purple is like a lot of like more your slow motion stuff. The green is usually
Mm-hmm.
your nested stuff. So take us through, and yeah, again, like generally, if this wasn't like a music one, I imagine there'd be more tracks besides your blue sound effects, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But looking at the visuals, like walk us through what these tracks above represent, like
Yeah.
the light blue tracks, the orange tracks, what have you.
Yeah, so I mean, starting from the top, that first layer at the very top this was anamorphic, so that is a mask for 240, I guess we did.
Yeah.
This timeline is a little bit messy in some places, but so the top is the matte. I have a track for like adjustment layer, so if you're doing an adjustment layer for like a push-in or something like that, or some kind of effect.
Mm-hmm.
I think an early version of the neuralizer thing, I just built something for that. That was an adjustment layer. And then the teal-ish color, or the like darker teal color, those are VFX color VFX shots.
Mm-hmm.
So like when VFX will export the VFX shot, we'll send it to the colorist, they'll send it back. The lighter teal color is just like straight color shots, things that don't have VFX on them. And then going below that, orange are uncolored VFX shots. And then the rest are generally, yeah, like just the shots, multicam, stuff like that. There weren't a ton of graphics in this one, and the one graphic we had was baked into a VFX shot. So like usually that's a different color too.
I see.
And then below that, the first track, that was the original track that they used on set for production.
Oh,
So
the
that's
audio,
what all
yeah.
of our, yeah. So that's what everything is synced to. So I always keep that in, so like I can do that matching back during the day, even if we've updated the track. I still
Mm-hmm.
have that original one there that everything is synced to. And then the two below that are just like updated versions of the track that we got from the composer. And then my dialogue, which there wasn't much, obviously. My dialogue's
Right.
below that. And then the blue is the sound design. And then on the very bottom is the mix that we
Oh,
receive
no.
from the
So
mixer. Yeah.
So this is like I'm really curious about what does like onlining look? You have time to mix. How does color work as well? Are you like making an EDL in a 4444 or like what is the color process? Are you like just coloring straight up in Premiere? Like what does the color process look like?
So first, I don't know if Ryan wants to talk about this, but generally, so to answer that first question, they send to mix at 7.
Okay.
Like usually, or an hour before we have to do that.
An hour before we're supposed to export for dress rehearsal, we'll send it to mix. So that's usually when we
Wow.
picture lock timing things and send it to the mixer so they have time to do a mix. But we've also already done all the sound design essentially. So they're really just kind of focused on getting a good solid mix that they'll hear in the studio and making sure everything is leveled and everything like that. So
and yeah, and also so but for color, so that's like one of the main things I work with. So we have the files are also sent to on Friday, are sent to us and the colorist.
Right.
And so what happens is primarily we're using Dropbox. We're around 5 p.m., 4 or 5. I'm taking Ryan's edit, compressing the whole thing.
And when you say
sending him
compress, that's like putting everything onto
like
one track.
one sequence. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in case there's whatever's going on, cleaning it up, sending him an XML, and then also sending a reference, especially like in case some shots are like punched in or some of that for him to see it. And then he around closer to like 7, I think is usually around the time where he'll start sending stuff back, and then I will start sending him pickups, and he uses Massive to send me the files.
Wow.
So then at that time, ideally Ryan is sent to mix, which means his cut's locked. I go through, see what all the pickups are, send it to him, get back. I
Mhm. Is
aim
there a way you guys are flagging changes to each other? Like, are you just doing like a difference mat of like the
I,
reference cut or?
no, I'm mainly going through what I do is we use this tool called Relink Retool. So a lot of times what I'll do is I will take his cut at 7. I will, simplify it to one track, export the XML, relink it to the color files to see
Mhm.
what doesn't online. And then that's how I
Wow. Okay.
realize, oh, this has these pieces need send. And that's so I go through, check to make sure everything's fine. I'm
Hmm.
also, because of our workflow, we can talk to you about this, that we we found that it's better for us to send the exports of flat exports of the VFX shots to color and have
Mm.
them color those instead of relinking to color.
That was the other thing I was going to ask about. Okay, cool.
So I'm also literally the last hour, I'm logged into my computer, basically watching the from VFX folder where they all export things, marking everything that I sent to color, tracking it, and then bringing it back in. Ryan, when he's free, I'll have a folder that says from color where he'll plug in the updated colored VFX shots.
Hmm.
And my goal is, while it is a luxury, my goal is always to have all the color in by dress, mainly because if we do have changes, we want to be able to change on a complete cut versus having to keep track of that afterwards.
And so where
Um,
are all three of you at dress? Are you like watching like a live feed or like how quick is it from like the sketch airing to you getting feedback? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, there's the feed, it plays in all the rooms basically. There's TVs and stuff, and the client monitor we can switch over to the in-house feed. So we'll watch it upstairs, and then usually about 10 minutes after that, we'll start getting feedback if there is any, and we can start working on that. And like sometimes there's already stuff that we already know we need to like focus on that we couldn't, that we knew we weren't going to get for dress that we could start working on for air.
How much time do you have between it airing generally and then like the drop dead like needs to go like the final output like needs to go out?
It depends. I mean, like, it usually like usually like 3 hours, I guess. Like so, eight.
Okay.
Yeah, usually like 3 hours. But I mean, every once in a while, there's a case where like we have so dress rehearsal's 2 hours long. So like if like this in this case, this was the first pre-tape that aired, which was pretty early in the show. So like during dress rehearsal, I think we had to deliver right around 8. It probably aired around like 8:15 ish, and then for air we had to deliver it by like 11:30, and it
Hmm.
probably aired around like 11:45 ish,
Wow.
midnight, something like that. Um, but we've had cases, it's been rare, but sometimes we've had cases where we have a piece that airs late in dress. It's like the last thing that airs in dress, which means it's like probably around like 9:30, 9:45, and it does really well, and they're like we want it at the top of the show.
And then that like
So then
time
we
period
have,
gets crunched,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, then we have like an hour and a half basically at that point. So it depends. Usually though, it's pretty stable and it's about 3 hours, but sometimes it can be like down to like 90 minutes. So
Well, and David, for Words to Live By, I think is a good example. I imagine for Dress, it's primarily like getting like the greatest hit, like those big, like you said, like the text and the third eye and stuff like that. But like we kind of mentioned up top, it seems like there probably is a lot of cleanup work, like percentage wise of Words to Live By. Like how many shots did you touch? Like, is there anything that like didn't go through VFX, or is it like everything's got a little something or other to it?
This piece, definitely the majority of it did not have to go through VFX.
Right
Like
on.
the biggest cleanup issue was with the larger drop on the mountain set. I would say like there were tiny cleanups on the set where they're kind of in like the Grange kind of farmy looking set because like you could see the spotlights,
Mm.
um like the C-stand holding the spotlight behind them. But Mike made sure to let me know at the end of the shoot that like we don't need to prioritize any of those cleanups. There might be one or two egregious ones to make sure we get in for dress, but the majority of them like focus on the big picture items. Like he Jack White was a late addition to the piece.
Okay.
Mike being a huge fan of both Jack White and Jack Black, he really, and I'm eternally grateful because I'm a huge Jack White fan. I was very excited that he was added to the piece and
Hmm.
for like a guitar solo and a joke. So he was like, um, we want to do this cool up angle. We're gonna put like I don't know if Ryan's before is on here, but like he's on a and this isn't so the set we had to do extensions on is not because like the set wasn't built well or something like that. The set's
Hmm.
gorgeous. It looks great. It holds up amazing, but like to make it a giant mountain for more than just like, knee up, you needed to do
Hmm.
an enormous extension.
Sure.
So he was like, since we're already doing an extension, like let's see what we can do for this shot. And so he does this up angle. They threw a pop-up blue screen behind Jack's head. So he's entirely rotoscoped out in this. Like, I don't think there is any of the practical set visible in this or the other shot of Jack.
Sure.
Um, I don't know if you're familiar with like the Corridor crew, but Peter France, a good friend of Mike's, incredible VFX artist,
Hmm.
did this particular shot. Danny Behar, our other one of our other 3D artists, did the wide of Jack Black that we knew about
Right.
in advance. So he was building out like these mountain elements. We got some scans of like actual mountain rocks, all this other stuff. He built the mountain,
That was
and then
something I was
Jack,
curious about if you guys are like taking assets from like other libraries or if you are like just having I imagine you can't just build everything from scratch. There's just not time.
I mean, there's stuff that we do have to build entirely from scratch because it just doesn't exist. I
Of
mean, like,
course.
I don't know how many toilets we've made. We've made so many like custom toilets because there's always like the toilet has to do some action or thing like that. And,
Sure.
and like it's just better to just do it from scratch rather than modify an existing one. But like for this, um, it's just like whatever makes sense and can be licensed.
Hmm.
There's an enormous amount of stuff that is just like too sketchy to license the
I was
legal.
gonna ask, like, has there ever been a sound effect or a VFX where it's just like, oh, they're not gonna notice?
No, they're super tight about that. Like
Okay.
there's no
Mhm.
like let's see if this slips by thing.
Yeah.
It's
If
just
anyone from Warner Brothers is watching, I haven't either. But no, that makes sense. Like, you really do have to like double, triple check a lot of that stuff, I imagine.
no, and because like also like to do that I would have to buy it, like I'm not gonna buy this element just so I can sneak it through or something like that. But like we have to get it through the clearance team and they pick it up and they deliver it back to us. So like it has to go through like a process. And like for some of the bigger things, we've had to reach out to like bigger like kitbashy type things where like just getting the licensing could take some time, which really eats
Sure.
into how much time we have to make it. But for like the Jack White moment, he built out the clouds in Blender, rendered them out, made them into cards. The way he did it was actually like ingeniously both complicated and simple. Like
Yeah.
to get like clouds like that super fast has always been tricky, but his particular I don't want to give away his secrets. His particular method was like very, very like elegant.
Hmm.
It looks incredible. Like the way it pushes through feels like it has like an incredible amount of depth. Mike had this idea of like an eagle flying by, so we picked up an eagle. He's a crazy fast animator. He animated like the flapping, has it like going over him.
See, that's incredible.
Um,
I would have just assumed that was like taken off of like a story blocks or what have you, and then just like comped in. That's incredible that you guys
no,
actually
no,
like build that stuff.
yeah, it's a fully CG eagle that
Wow.
he animated.
That's
The
incredible. That's amazing.
the the shot of Jack is like again very very impressive. It's a steady cam shot of Jack. He's been completely rotoscoped out. Um, and this is both retaining the movement of the steady cam on top of this like crazy push in. So he's maintaining like the integrity of the actual cameraman's work.
Yeah.
This like whip pan, and it comes out to be like a really crazy, beautiful shot. We all just wanted to make sure like we wouldn't do Jack White dirty in any capacity. Like
Oh, 100%. I think it looks incredible. Yeah. And I think that's a good like go through of like the full week. Here's my one question before I start getting into like some audience questions. Like what does Sunday look like for you guys? Like what's the recovery process?
It used to be much more sleep until I had a child.
Right. And then
So
Ryan, I know
second,
you got a
yeah.
1-year-old, 1.5, something like that as well.
Yeah, almost 1.5. Yeah, Noel's got a kid too.
Oh my
I got a
God. I don't
four
know how you
now.
guys do this. Like in my 20s,
Yeah.
I don't know if I could have done this show. I don't know how you guys are
It's
doing it. It's like that's incredible.
no, it's we've talked about this a lot too. It's like that being on Sunday, you have to be, especially because you're gone for 2 days.
Hmm.
You have to be not only awake but present, and you want to spend the time with your kids. So Monday becomes my day of recovering, whether or not I have work, my freelance work. But that's really where I think it really hits me more than Sunday. Sunday, I'm just powering through to spend time with
Hmm.
my kid as I can. But
Yeah, we all go to the after parties far less than we used to.
yeah,
Fair
Let's
enough.
put it that way.
Well, before I get into audience questions, something that's really important to me, because again, if people don't know, SNL recently unionized, which I think is fantastic. And a big part of the thing that I've always been surprised about is SNL is being able to work at that pace and level. So I think the biggest question before going in kind of alluded to it, like, how do y'all take care of your mental health? Like being able to work at this, like, I can't think of a lot of other jobs in post-production that are as like high stress, high level, fast approaching world watching you kind of thing. So for all of you, just like, are there any steps you do to take care of your physical and mental health when you're, in these kind of crunch periods?
Um, for me, like, yeah, I definitely used to have more panic and anxiety about it when I first started doing it, but I think I've learned like to trust myself, trust like the process, trust like these guys, like I mean, like I can't spend my effort worrying about a VFX shot because I know like Dave's and his team's got it. So like I'm just focused on like my portion of the edit, like my, just getting the edit together, working with the people in the room and everything and trying to just like get things done on time really. So it took a little bit of work, but I think that and just taking care of my mental health in general, I've gotten to a pretty good place where I feel much like more comfortable about it than I used to. But yeah, I mean it can definitely be a very stressful environment. I think it's just like knowing what you can control and just kind of focusing on controlling that part of it and like trusting everyone around you to be able to do their parts of it as well. So,
David,
Yeah,
what about you? Is it dog related?
well, he's great. I more often than not, my wife gave me a shirt that has like 5 of him on it that I think helps morale at the office.
hmm
But definitely like drink a lot of water, get the sleep that you can get, and like Ryan said, like the trust thing is huge. So like on this show more than any other, like there's often a tendency to be like everything's fine, like don't worry about it. But with this show, like if you know something bad is gonna happen, like let everybody, like not everybody, but like I'll talk to Noel or Ryan and be like, look, like we need a backup plan for this. Like
hmm
if we're gonna go to dress with a giant hole here, like we need something to be there. Like I'm not gonna pretend like this giant render is going to make it.
Hmm.
And, like Matt Yonks, our
Yeah.
supervisor, like he's fantastic for getting ahead of some of that stuff. So it's like if there's stuff about to really hit the fan, like I'll be like, Matt, like X, Y, and Z is happening. Like what can we do? Can like what? How can we press them to lock these shots by this time? Like this is happening and we can't get started on it until this happens. Like what can we do? Um, and there's a lot of just like don't pretend everything's okay if it's not, because you're not going to be able to cover yourself after that. Like most
Yeah.
shows,
Real quick.
yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to second what David said too about like Matt Youngs or Post Super. Like when I've done enough of these. I think this last one was like my 97th sketch that I've done.
Hmm.
Um, I can see like when trouble might be coming down the road. I've done enough of these to know like potential warning signs. And Matt is a great person to go to when you see that stuff coming to be like, hey, I don't know that this is going to go bad. I'm not trying to cause any panic, but like, I do see this as a potential pinch point. Letting you know, like, start thinking about like, if we have more like resources we can throw at this, or like who the right people are to let know, like, hey, this might be a problem. We have to pivot. We have to do this or that or whatever.
I
So
love how many of
being
y'all's
able,
answers so far are not even just about like what you're doing. It's like what you're doing for the production. And it's really refreshing to hear because I think a lot of people, especially earlier in your career, you're just like told to like just grind, just make it happen, just do whatever it takes. And I love that the answer seems to be of just like be honest with your team, be honest about setting expectations and goals. That's really refreshing to hear.
Well,
yeah,
along those lines, me and Dave have talked about this a lot. Is so me and Ryan are in the same room on Saturdays. The VFX, there's a lot of them. How many effects usually do you think there are VFX artists do you think we have at a time? Usually like 10,
At
15?
minimum, there's like 9. At max, like 18.
Mhm.
Right.
Very,
And that's
very
not counting graphics also, which is the ones that are doing just like titles and text and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
yeah, like me and David talked about this a lot. Like I feel like a lot of my role is to like open and close the door, both like physically and metaphorically, in terms of like whatever's going on in the room and what's going on out there. Like, because all the times I'm the one's giving notes or like direct like I'm talking to Dave and be like, Mike wants this VFX shot, and I'm relaying information. But keeping the stress siloed. So like if a writer is
Mm.
stressed out, that it's not like we're not letting it permeate into this, or if like at the time crunch happens like later in the day where someone's like, where's this VFX shot? And then being like, no, the artists can't be stressed because they get stressed, some of them get shut down, and we want them to do best work. And also sometimes their nature of just like the render is taking X amount of time because it's 3D and
Yeah.
not because of anything to them, but like, in the room and trying to keep that going because I think that it's both for the team's health and also for our own health, and like we feed off each other's energy. And I think that if people start to be stressed out, it can easily go out of hand. And
Oh
that and like
yeah.
these kinds of things, it's more about like I think a lot about like the idea of, which I love about this job, is like it almost has a feeling of like a sports, playing a game where it's live and it matters everything you do, and it's like
Mhm.
keeping your head in this and keeping everyone in the right mindset. And I think that like we thrive when we feel encouraged by each other in
Yeah.
this way of like, look at what we pulled off. And that's why I think Mario Kart is such a important one to all of us, because it was
yeah.
something that seemed impossible that we all pulled off.
And it is
And
so much we all
some
like kind of set the tone in the bay in our own ways. Like I didn't realize until I was older, unfortunately, of just like if I was having a bad day, it would feed into the director and the producer and everyone else, and then it's like you realize it's like one of the best things you can do as an editor is like having that optimism. And again, like
Mhm.
this is something I ask about a lot more, and it's great to hear that so many of y'all's answers is just like being there for your team and like knowing like that you want to do your best work, but again, to set like reasonable expectations. I know it's late over there, so I don't want to keep you guys too long. Maybe like just 15, 20 minutes of like audience cues and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I know it's 9 and you guys have kids, so feel free to like hard out. All I have after this is
I'm
playing
not in a
Baldur's Gate,
rush,
so I'm
so
easy.
yeah.
uh,
All right, first question: how many assistant editors are working full time, and how big is the VFX team? I know one of y'all had mentioned there's like 2 film units, so like tell us a little bit about like how big of a machine are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 fully functioning film units, but we do have a few more people than just that. We have 3 dedicated film editors, so it's myself, Chris Salerno, and Paul Del Gesso, and then we have 3 first assistant editors. So that's Noel, that's Christy Fariso, and Mac Macgower are our 3 first assistant editors, and then we have I don't know, a pool of about, how many would you say, Noel? Like 10 like second assistant editors right
uh,
now?
I'm trying to think if it's closer to 6 we rotate through.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, because we used to have more.
Mhm.
But like now, yeah, we primarily I think have 6 that are rotating on Fridays. And they're all fantastic as well.
When you say rotating, is that like because you had mentioned that you work from like noon to 2 or 3 a.m. or what have you? Is there like a night shift that's like taking over any of
No,
that kind of stuff?
so I rotate just in terms of like me and Ryan are always film unit. We're always
I
working
see.
every weekend. There's
You
like
guys
3
are paired
teams.
together. Okay.
Yeah. But the other AEs will rotate depending on needs, depending on like Ethan's been with us
Interesting.
almost every time,
Yeah.
but then he'll rotate sometimes Ian, sometimes Sam, sometimes Audrey.
I see.
Sometimes Kingsley will be working with us, but then if not, they're working with other teams depending on their needs.
Okay.
So that's why we say like rotam sayings and all those things. And then yeah, and then as we just said about the VFX, we have what you said, 9 to 18. I think there's 18 maybe on Mario Kart, and then there's I believe 4 or 5 graphics people.
Okay.
Uh,
And David, how do you split like those or how are those like VFX people split up? Is everybody kind of working on every short, or is it like these 8 people are on this thing, these 8 people are on this thing? Like, what's the division of labor for VFX?
VFX is much more not disorganized in what we do, but not like people are not assigned to specific like one thing or another. Everybody kind of shares the work. So there's me. I'm always with Mike, Milton Ladd, and Hannah Kim, who work with our other 2 directors, Tim Bokame and Chris Werner. Um, and then we have a large, well, not very large, honestly, for what we do. We have a pool of effects artists that accordion based on the needs of the shows. So me, Hannah, and Milton will talk over like how many people we need for each week. And like I like to try and be as staffed as possible, but like I unfortunately can't push for what um won't be required on Saturday because
Hmm.
like the budgets end up being a bit tight where like if I know I need like this many 3D artists, I have to like push for like I need these people. I need this person who has this animating ability.
Of
I need this
course.
person who has this rigging ability. I need this person who's really good at composite work. Like a lot of it is very specialty oriented. There's a number of people who are very, like everybody has to be kind of a Swiss Army knife to begin with.
Hmm.
Like all the VFX artists that we work with are incredible and can do like any kind of shot. But certain scripts call for certain,
Of course.
especially specific abilities for like the joke beats. Like we
Hmm.
always have to kind of prioritize the joke beats of like, how do we get this done elegantly and it'll have to look good and hold up, you know?
Of course. Well, so like how many weeks a year is the post team working typically? Like and I guess what like it sounds like are those like technically like 4-day weeks or what is like that work look like for you guys?
Yeah, it's 20 or 21
20
episodes
or
a
21.
20
season.
episodes.
Okay, so about
Yeah,
half the
20
year.
episodes a season. Yeah, and it runs the traditional like the old school style television season, so like fall to late spring.
Hmm.
And then yeah, I mean, for me, it's really 2 days or Friday, Saturday of work, and then like Thursday of standby. Um, and I guess for Noel, it's kind of similar, I guess, for you. Although you get to sometimes do the animated stuff, which you get a few more days in the week and
Yeah,
things.
that one's a little different. But yeah, so generally, the first AEs are Friday and Saturday.
Hmm.
The other AEs are just Friday. And something I do want to point out, just because I feel like we missed, which I think is one of the most impressive things here, is that 90% of the VFX, if not more, is done just on Saturday at 10 a.m. Like
I mean,
this
it's
is
just incredible.
like there is, and Dave, clarify me on this, but like like I think even Mark had like some 3D prep was done beforehand and some like maybe background, but like still even that one, I think most of the actual VFX is done day of, and it like truly it blows my mind just like this things they do. And I think a couple weeks ago with the Ryan Gosling one, you saw like what they did in the beginning of the day, and by that end of the day, you realize how extraordinarily talented each of these people are,
Hmm.
and that's I think to me one of my most fun things is like the fact that we're pulling this stuff off that I don't know any other show or thing opportunity that would have basically like this real time almost like marathon style uh like challenge every week of doing VFX.
Yeah. Well, going off of, I want to go to a couple of people are asking about workflow, season to season or week to week. When does or do you guys make like workflow changes or improvements, or do you try implementing new things? Like, I don't know if you're like from season to season or if you're finding new ways to work on stuff. Because one person asked, which I kind of agree with, why you're not using Premiere Productions. Because to me, it's like crazy that you're just trading projects back and forth. It seems like a lot of stuff could slip.
Yeah, I mean, like Well, we've tried. I haven't tried it again recently. I tried it kind of, I think, 3 or 4 years ago when they were first making a big push for it.
Hmm.
One thing that we found, which stopped us from doing it, was the way that we would take advantage of productions is basically inside the production we would have like my working sequences in one project or bin or whatever they call it, and then those setup sequences in another one.
Hmm.
And at the time, and I don't know that they've fixed this, if I were to match frame something in that one where my timeline was, I could not reverse match frame to something in another one,
That makes sense.
which
Yeah.
completely refuted the whole point of being able to do it. So like we have had this system even before productions came around where it's just like we just import pieces of projects and stuff like that throughout the day. A lot of what we'll do is like I'll copy Noel's project when I first start, and that will have like a couple of the setups in. And then as the day goes along, he'll hop on and import his new setups into my project and just make sure everything is tidy and clean. And then I'll hop back on. And then on Saturday, I'll just keep saving, or he'll remind me to save if he needs to grab something, and he'll grab my project and grab what he needs out of there.
Mm.
And then when he's handing me stuff off, we have a folder in Finder, and then I typically have open the media browser window pointing at that folder so I
I
can
see. So you can
quickly
see Effie's
grab
uploading
stuff.
stuff. That makes
Yeah, and
sense.
grab it in and bring it in, and that works for us.
Well,
So like we don't do a ton of workflow updates unless we really test them out because what we do works for us and it's a machine that we don't want to break. um, I mean, but every once in a while we'll definitely like try something new and but put it through the paces first. I mean, we're still on. There was a question to update to like 26 a couple of weeks ago, and
mm.
we kind of put the brakes on that just because like I've been playing around with it a little bit, and there's a lot of great new stuff in it, but as typical with almost every software, when the first big new update comes out, there's a few glitches, and it's like I don't think that we want to deal with that in the middle
My
of the
rule of
day on a
thumb's wait a full
Saturday.
year, wait a full cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Well, I
I
kind of
think
want
that's
to go
the
into that for all of you guys. This is where you can get like super dorky, but what are like must use like hotkeys? What are some macros, like things you guys use to make you work faster? And again, I know it's like hard to like conceptual. For me, it's like people ask me and I'm like, it's like trying to say how you tie your shoes, but it's like things that you feel like you use a lot because I think we have like editors of varying levels watching or VFX people, whatever. So any like workflow tips, hotkeys, macros, things that you found that you use a lot of the time at SNL or make you work faster, and this is for everybody.
For VFX, definitely FX console. That's not like a plugin, but just makes
Mhm.
everything just go so much faster when getting stuff into After Effects. We've gotten to the point where we've scripted a handful of things to try and make timecode handoffs easier for Noel and Ryan when they get the stuff back in the sequence. So we do a lot more hands-on stuff as VFX artists than almost any, like we don't get exports, we pull it straight from like a sequence that's handed off to us.
Right.
So it ends up being very important to like maintain time code, maintain like handles of the same length on both sides, maintain the time remapping or undo the time remapping and then hand it back with like, so there's a bunch of tools that we have like custom built to make that faster for us.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of our stuff is pretty native plugins and things, but honestly, we've probably used just about every piece of software that I can think of to do various shots. It's just like what can we do? What can do the thing that's being asked of us? So that's kind of my Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is like learning new software or finding
Hmm.
somebody that can use it.
Absolutely. And so Ryan and Noel, like again, like I think I'm a pretty fast editor, but working at that pace, that's just is amazing to me. So for you guys, like for me, like I was always taught, it's like, I had a piano teacher that would like whap my hands if I ever like had a certain thing. I had an editing teacher that was the same as like anytime you touch a mouse. So it's like for you guys, like what kind of like hotkeys are you using? Is there any like workflow stuff that has really made you fast macros, little what have you? Like this is your time to get dorky.
It's funny. I was just talking to one of our new assistants who's on the younger side, and actually said the same analogy about like slapping your hand if you touch the mouse. I would have to go far deep into this, but my shortcuts have been so customized that I don't think I know the default anymore.
No, mine's
Like
like
if I
all like Final Cut and like Avid and Premiere.
Avid,
It's such a
Premiere, yep.
smorgasbord. I could never. I tried to explain mine to my assistant recently, and I was just like, I don't know, man. It's just like this one goes here. It just works.
Yeah, no,
Noel's
it's all
keyboard shortcuts are crazy because sometimes when he hops on my machine, he'll accidentally leave his keyboard shortcuts on, and I
Mm,
start trying to do something, and it's like JKL is not even mapped to play or something
that's
like
the one
that,
I never
man.
touched. That's crazy to me that you would like. It's like that, and like there's like certain ones where I was like, I'm learning Avid again, and I'm just like, why would they change this? But then it's like JKL. Fucking on
well,
QuickTime, I was just doing JKL, and it works. You
well,
know.
so I've shifted the arrow keys for different speeds, so it's like shuffle more or
Mm,
less. But also
sure.
like yeah, no, and like I've learned a lot from this point, like reverse match frame, stuff like that. Like I have now, because of this job, learned to like have a hotkey for flattening multicams, for creating multicams, for changing labels. I have, like Alt and the numpad, command and numpad has a completely different function to that. And yeah, so I think there's a lot of like quick speed, especially for when I'm doing the checks, like
Hmm.
between the thing I have, like the select clip at play hub enabled, and I have, a period as my enable disable clip. So I can quickly go through and see time if it's matching the color file with the previous one.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I think that yeah, it's all about speed and efficiency. And like constantly in this job, I'm learning new tricks. Like I actually have JKL as my nudge. So and then I have
Interesting.
it
Okay.
um I forget what it's called, but I have it I think as like Alt J or K if I want to nudge something like a ripple inside the edit. So
Yeah.
like for instance, if I'm doing something and there's one where it physically nudges it, and then one when I'm like let's say matching like relinking some of the color, and I'm like, oh, it's one frame off, and I'll just nudge it using like Alt J.
Okay. And Ryan, what about you for you, man? Like, are you like a nudge guy? You a trim guy? Are you a like use the like like the blade tool guy? Like, how do you generally like
I'm
edit? How do you move
I'm
fast?
really in my trim editing era right now.
I'm loving it. I picked it up again from Avid, and it's like now I feel
Yeah,
like
that's
how
the
did I do this
same.
without it?
It's the same reason. I originally learned on Avid, and then I used Final Cut briefly in that year before it became Final Cut 10 or whatever.
I
And
remember.
then when I was at above average, we were on Premiere. So when I started learning Premiere, I was like, I just want to learn all the keyboard shortcuts. I got them to buy me the keyboard that had all the
The stuff
buttons
on
on
it,
it.
yeah.
So I learned Premiere and was on Premiere pretty hard for like 6 or 7 years. So my
This
keyboard
thing is what they're
shortcuts are
talking
pretty
about.
much, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't had to
I
use
don't
that in
have
a
one of
long
those
time, but it's
anymore,
here.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I have my keyboard shortcuts are pretty close to like the base Premiere, but with like a lot of little modifications I've done over the years for things that I access quickly or kind of like work for the way that I like to work. Also, like I'm a big peripherals guy. I have the lot like a nice Logitech mouse. Like I bring
Love the Logitech mouse.
a clicky keyboard with me when I come into SNL because I don't like the flat Mac keyboard. Like
I'm
I
the
need
same
that
way. I like
tactile.
my assistant at college humor used to always get mad at me because I would like do the thumb hit on the space bar and it was just like so loud. But I'm like, I like that kind of tactile like thing to
Yeah.
it. It's like the BlackBerry deal.
Mhm.
And I've been using the that little like Logitech MX Creative console thing that they
Oh
have,
yeah.
which is like it's got a pad has it's kind of like a what is it called the Stream Deck kind of thing. It's got a pad that has like screen buttons on it that I use for shortcuts, and it's got the dial, which like I thought I was going to use it a little bit more. I don't use it as much as I thought I would, but the
Yeah.
two things I use it a lot for are, as you can see in my timelines, I try to keep things very color coordinated. And
Hmm.
a lot of that color coordinating is happening when it comes into the timeline. So I use that keypad mapped to label colors. So I just select like my sound effects, and then rather than having to like right click and do all that stuff, I just have a button map for like it just turns them all blue and stuff like that. And I like having the little dial. It just feels more organic for scrubbing through things. Um, and yeah, I mean, I just kind of like modify as I go along. And then I recently started using Avid more for commercial projects.
I've been jumping into it
Um,
more.
and like, yeah, so that kind of brought me a little bit back to trim editing. So I've turned in Premiere, I've turned the trim selection tool to do that like auto select thing. So I can automatically it automatically will, depending on where I'm at, will turn to the ripple tool and stuff. So like it makes certain things a lot faster. And so yeah, so I'm doing a lot of like trim editing these
I
days.
see. Well, my friend Ashley, who is an avid editor, she sent me like her keyboard, and I think people will appreciate. Oh, rats! I don't know if it'll go on with my fucking thing. Oh, shoot! Hold on, I'll just share her thing, but it's like she has like a really cool clicky keyboard that I wanted to show because I was like, I really want to do something like this at some point. While I'm bringing this up, I think this is a good place to kind of like wrap up. And usually, how I like to end these things is kind of taking us back to the start of like before we got all the big jobs and the cool stuff. If there's something you wish you could have told yourself at the start of their career, it could be something technical or career wise or artistic, spiritual, what have you. If there's something, I'll interrupt one of you at some point to like show you this dope thing, my friend's dope keyboard. But as I set that up, I guess maybe Noel, if you want to like take that first, and then we'll kind of go through.
I'm not sure, like
Oh, and actually, real hold
what.
on. Here's
Uh,
the thing. This is her
oh
keyboard.
yeah,
That's
yep.
pretty
Ooh,
dope.
nice.
Which is honestly like I would love to like get something like this where I can like fully customize it and add all this stuff. And she has like the stream deck and stuff. So shout out
Nice.
Ashley, the homie. If anyone ever needs an assistant there, she fucking rules.
Nice.
But yeah, so let's but as we wrap up, yeah, Noel, what is some advice you would give you like early version of yourself, the V01?
It's funny. I think I would give the same advice I actually did get once from a college professor I worked with, who told me, everyone who survives in this injury for 10 years will make it. And this idea of like, I think having been true, like this idea of like, if you find a way, for anyone who's at the beginning, find a way to make a living doing editing, whether it's, doing anything like infomercials or like industrial things or anything that just kind of keeps you working in the space instead of, trying to do a side thing. If you find a way to make a living doing that, I think that eventually you will find your way through and be able to really make a living doing it. And you find, you're resourceful, constantly hustling, trying to find different doors. But I really see that from the people I've seen, that if you just keep hustling for 10 years, that yeah, you'll eventually get to a point where you're comfortable and you're having a career that you're generally happy with. Obviously, there's bigger aspirations we all have in different ways, but to be able to be like, I'm making a living editing and I'm happy with that, is I definitely buy that.
David, how about you, man? Advice that you would give an engineer school you, or any version of yeah, yourself, if you could go back in time.
Don't work for free.
My man,
There's so many projects people like throw at you and they're like, oh, it's short. Oh,
this
it's good.
celebrity's in it. Oh, it'll
It's
get
good
this exposure.
exposure.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, don't do it. Like, unless you really, really love the project or you know the person you want to help them out and it's short. But like, there is definitely one project that it was like almost like 6 months, and at the end of it, it's just like I'm still broke. It was like one of my first things in the city after I started getting work, and it's like I talk to people, and a lot of people end up doing stuff like that for like an indie project that they like aren't really that into, or like it's one thing if you're like your friend or somebody you're working with, like you like really believe in the project, but it's another thing if you like if you think that they're going to pay you later or you
hmm
think it's going to be a bigger thing than it is. Like it has to be a passion project. Don't work for free for anything else.
No, I always tell kids it's like there's three types of jobs. There's the cash jobs, there's the career jobs, and the art jobs. And like the cash one's obvious. Career is like, oh, it's like you're working with this person, or you're building this relationship, or this will look good on your reel, whatever. And then the art is just like fills your soul. It's the reason we all do this. And ideally, it's like all three circles submerged, but that's very rare. It's
Yeah.
generally it's like a big chunk of this with a slice of this. But the important one I always say is like, and it's harder and harder. I don't know how people are starting out now, but it's like, yeah, get paid for what you do, and it's a big thing we all, even on Blue Collar Post Collective, it's like we always make sure that like people are like, what is the rate for this thing? And again, I highly encourage people to look up the Blue Collar Post Collective wage survey. We put it out every year. It's a great way to see what someone else that's like, you can look it up by like demographics, location, job, what have you, and be able to kind of get a better idea of what your rate is. So that's really good advice. Ryan, I don't know how you're going to top that, but I am excited to see you try.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I guess like dovetailing two things. I guess one, like dovetailing into that is like, yeah, also like the fast, cheap, good kind of like triangle, like, is something I wish I kind of like thought about more when I was first starting out too. Like, yeah, I mean, there are jobs that's like maybe they don't have a ton of money, but like they're willing to let you take your time on it to do it good. Like, if you're passionate about it and they're not going to be a pain in the butt, like,
Famous last
it's
words.
there's definitely like opportunities there, and I think you can also kind of there are people too that you can work with where it's like, I know you don't have a lot of money. I can see what went into this production, but I'm passionate about it. I'm willing to like work with you on it. Versus people where it's like, I know there's a lot of money here. You're just asking me to do this for free or next to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, I mean, I think like the other advice too I would like give myself is like, trust your gut, trust your instincts. Like, at least like for me in comedy, I think it's a lot of just kind of like going with your gut and trusting like what you find is funny when you're working on something. Like, focus on that first. Like, it's it's always hard to kind of like describe how to be like a good comedy editor.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is just like either instinctual or like you just are around it long enough that like it gets in your bones in a way that it's hard to like figure out how to extract and like like uh put it in the words of the song, something succinct and kind of smart or whatever. But like when you feel like what's good and you have a point of view on it, like just trust it. And like your first cut's never going to be exactly what the writers or directors want, and like that's actually kind of good because like you might show them things that they weren't expecting, and then they love it and they want to use it, and then that is part of being a creative editor, is finding those things that no one told you to do and no one expected you to do,
100%.
but they end up in the final cut and like it's better because of it. So I would say like that would definitely be a big piece of advice I would give my younger self.
Well, I mean, as a 35-year-old hearing all this stuff, this already gets me excited to go back into the band, my Warner thing. So it's thank you guys so much for
Yeah.
taking your time. I know you're all dads, and we went a little long, but I could have talked about this for 4 more hours. I think you guys have the best job in the world, and it's really incredible to see not just like how fast you guys are working, but how much you guys really put an emphasis on. It's a team sport, and it really is like I don't think a show like SNL works without having someone like Noel and like all of you guys like working together to like make this thing happen. So again, thank you guys so much for your time sitting with us. Thank you to Blue Collar Post Collective for hosting us. Again, if you work in post production or are interested in working in post production, look up bluecollarpostcollective.com or find the Facebook group. They were instrumental in my career, and I guarantee they'll help yours. They have meetups in New York and LA, and we do conversations like this. So follow along. And yeah, that's it. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks,
Right.
everyone.
Thank you very
Imagine the
much.
imagine the late night the song is playing the dun clap clap dun ba
Yeah.
dun.